number 5 on the, it is still number 5 on the, oh, I see, you've moved them around. No, thank you, sorry, with the update, they are fine now. All right, Mr. Novuso, can I hand over to you, please, to present item number 5?
Thank you, Mr. Gumede. Firstly, I would like to apologize to the members because on this agenda item, this initial submission that was published was not signed, and then we included the second one that was signed, and they also didn't look the same in terms of the pages. So, but we are going with the signed one that was later published. In terms of the submission itself, Chair, this submission is located within the provisions of 156 of the Constitution that relates to the executive authority of the municipalities with regard to area of jurisdiction and the aspect of electricity reticulation. The conundrum of this submission is the overlapping jurisdiction on area of supply between Eskom and Tshwane municipality. When Eskom made this submission, Chair, the municipality placed an objection, but also refused for mediation. So basically, that is the issue that has been major in terms of this submission. And also, members had asked several questions in terms of this process. But I'll let Thabo Manaka to do the details of the submissions. Thank you very much.
Mr. Manaka, please proceed.
Thank you, Chair, and good morning to the board members and the colleagues. As the EM has elaborated, I will take the submission as read, and taking that, we'll be working on item 5 addendum as the most correct submission. The purpose of the submission is to request the Electricity Subcommittee to approve the Schedule 1 of the Eskom Holding SOC Limited electricity distribution license to be amended to include Mooitloof Megacity and the polygon of the Mooitloof Megacity development be included and highlighted with the corresponding NERSA electricity distribution number on the NERSA GIS for distribution area of supply, and that the tariff to be charged in the area mentioned above be the NERSA approved Eskom distributions tariff. The delegation authority, the license amendment application is delegated to Electricity Subcommittee for approval as part of licensing administration. As highlighted by Mr. Maboso, issues are in the submission, including comments and questions raised from the Electricity Subcommittee of 1 December 2022, the public hearing. The responses thereof are detailed in Table 1 in the submission. It is therefore requested that the Electricity Subcommittee approve the Schedule 1 of Eskom electricity distribution license be amended to include Mooitloof Megacity, the polygon of Mooitloof Megacity be included and highlighted with corresponding NERSA electricity distribution number on the NERSA GIS for distribution areas of supply, and the tariff to be charged in the Mooitloof area be the NERSA approved Eskom distributions tariff. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Mr. Manaka. Advocate Stoller, I think you may have a challenge on your side. The sound is okay, I think, for most of us. I could hear Mr. Manaka pretty well, and I can also hear Mr. Mateha. So I think there may just be a challenge on your side. With that, members, we've got the submission. Yes, Advocate.
Chairperson, I've managed to reconnect. I could hear him towards the end.
All right, but your line is not
I
great.
can hear you now as well.
Your line is not great. You may need to just move a little bit around. Members, we have the submission before us for any comments, questions, noting that this submission is serving, I think, now a third time before the ELS. It's a long-standing item. So, but members, it's the item is before you for comments and questions. By show of hands, please. If there are any further questions, noting that the team would have addressed a number of them. Advocate Titola.
Thank you, Chairperson, and thanks to the presenter for the presentation. Chair, maybe I was part of the other meeting where this item was also discussed, but I had thought that it was covered in the submission. If it has been, the team can just direct me. Chair, my question is a procedural one, which is, can we consider an inclusion of one area in another licensee's license when it's still in the other licensee? Meaning, my understanding is that this area has been included in or it's covered in the license issued to City of Tshwane. And I haven't seen any amendment of that particular license of City of Tshwane to take out this particular area, such that when we now include it in the Eskom distribution license, it is no longer in the City of Tshwane's license. If that can be clarified, maybe it's covered in a manner that I am not picking it up in the submission. Thank you, Chairperson.
Thank you, Advocate. Mr. Mkhize.
Thank you, Chairperson. And thanks for the presentation. My question is related somehow to what Advocate Tole said. If you look, for example, on page 5, the last issue on the table, which talks to section 156, subsection 1A of the Constitution with regard to reticulation, where it says that the last sentence there says that this does not apply general, but it applies to areas where the municipality actually already has the provision of relevant services. Just want to get clarity in terms of that has actually been canvassed with LAS in terms of the interpretation, as well as the fact that they may not have provided, but there's this issue that the area was like with them. So if that can be clarified. And the other issue that I'm raising here, we've had challenges with municipalities in terms of being licensees that are actually meeting all the conditions 100%. So I think when we're dealing with these matters, compliance with conditions should also be raised, so that in future we've got something to stand on when declining an area to a particular municipality due to not being a frequent when it frequently contravenes legislation or the conditions that are put forth for their licenses. And also, I think we should reflect on the situation of Tshwane as a licensee in this regard. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mkhize. Madam Maseti.
Thank you, Chairperson. Chairperson, I have 2 questions. One, I think both of them just relate to legislation that seeks to manage cooperation between Eskom and the municipalities in terms of the supply of electricity. So in the submission, even the covering submission, I have not seen any other piece of legislation that has been referred to apart from Section 155 and 156 of the Constitution. But I would like to believe that there are some pieces of legislation. I can't remember the title, the title itself, but it's a municipal whatever act, which then would deal with the issues of sort of requests that are made maybe by Eskom or the municipalities, but the intention is to manage cooperation between these two. What is it? One is the state-owned entity and the one is the organ of state. So if I can just be clarified as to what extent will that apply in the situation that is before us? I see that we have not made any reference in our analysis to that, to the need for cooperation, and in instances of this nature, how useful in guiding how an issue between the two bodies can be resolved. So if I can be clarified just on the legal basis for that. And if that piece of legislation exists and it does, clarify how Eskom could approach the municipality on a matter like this and make such a request, if then it applies and we've looked into it, carefully, I would like to then, if we have included it, I would like to understand what is the chance of our decision being taken on a review for not perhaps applying ourselves properly to other pieces of legislation that seeks to sort of resolve these things, so that we can have a better understanding on whether we should proceed to grant the sort of the license, or to add these areas into a distribution license of Eskom, just so that before we get to that decision, we make sure that all of the applicable laws have been looked into. So that's just my question on the possibility of the decision being taken on a review for not taking into account during our due diligence in reviewing or evaluating this application. Lastly, Chairperson, on the issue of the distribution code, Section 7, I would like to understand whether the municipality has included these areas as part of its plan or network development plans, and if so, has the municipality then and I understand that those plans are sort of valid for 5 years, so that you don't have gatekeepers when there are people that are interested in utilizing a service that is needed to customers. So I just want to understand if such development and network development plans existed and were still valid, that is, were within the period of 5 years for the municipality. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Madam Sethi. You were kind of breaking a little bit. There was a comment on the chat. Mr. Manaka did not quite get all your questions. However, I think the other colleagues may have, and I may be able to assist later if need be. But can I, as I hand over most of the questions, I'm assuming that Mr. Murati is on the call, because most of the questions that are being posed are kind of legal in nature. If we can actually get him to assist us with that. But can I then maybe just clarify? I think there may have been the challenge with an item that has come too many times. Yes, I see you, Mr. Ramakopa. You will definitely assist. The problem with this challenge with this submission, members, is that it has come a few times. I know there has previously they have published a version that even had a map. This one doesn't. It doesn't have a map. The map was indicating clearly where this particular farm, this particular area is in that big area. And I think Mr. Ramakoka is actually better suited to explain this, that in fact it may have come across as if this area actually is in the Tshwane municipal area of supply, when in fact it is not. But I would actually leave it to Tsepo to then explain this and locate it properly. And then Mr. Murati, if you can assist with the legal questions, please. Let's start with you, Mr. Ramkoka.
Thank you, Chairperson. Good morning, members and colleagues. I will start with the ones that we can tackle, and the legal issues. I'll request Mr. Murati, as you stated, Chairperson, to assist us. The one from advocate is that number 5. It's highlighted on the table on number 5. The mega kloof developing is happening on portion of the farm, but not on the farm 375 stroke JR. So as the map, the attached map on the RFD depicts the portions of the same farm where the entire mega city will be developing. It will be developing in 1, 2, 3, in 5 portions of the farm. Even if Tshwane has objected and said the mega city is developing in their farm, but it's not in the entire farm, but only in farm portions, which we regard as an independent property and also as a greenfield as far as the rules are concerned. When it comes to section 5.
Mr. Ramagoka, can you clarify this again, just for the members to understand? Is this farm already licensed to? Is this part of the area, or is it part of the Tshwane municipality license? Just categorically, is it there in that schedule, or is it not?
The farm Rietfontein 375 is stated in Tshwane's license, distribution license. However, the farm has portions of it, which 5 of them is where the mega city is developing. However, the other portions are already having plots and customers that already are supplied by Eskom. So it is not true that the development is happening in 375. It is developing in portion of that, which already other portions has already been supplied by Eskom, as is depicted in the map attached to the reasons for decision. I hope maybe I've responded. Mr. Murati's hand is up to assist.
Before he does, Advocate, I saw your hand came up. Maybe just a quick follow-up. So, Mr. Murati, can I just...
I think the question you rephrased, I think that's what I wanted to do, Chairperson, to say, can they state whether this area is in the license of the City of Tshwane or not? I think I was covered by you, hence I lowered my hand. Thanks.
Okay, all right, no, thank you. Mr. Murati, please assist. You may as well assist with the others as well.
Chair, good morning, Chairperson, and good morning, members. I think the issue that is being raised and the answer given by Mr. Ramokoka, the answer to the question is that yes, the farm is licensed in the municipality, under the municipality. But what the licensing process that was done raises a problem, because the number of the farm is the broader area, which represents the surveyor general and any other authority and allocation number. But within that big number, there are properties inside that exist with independent identification. So the error that as NERSA we made was to record the bigger number into the license of the city, when that bigger number does not represent property ownership, it represents identification. The properties that are inside that have their own numbering are the ones that should have been recognized when licensing to the city was being done, which has now generated the issue that the city is claiming the whole broader area that has been identified as falling under their license, when that number on its own, it's not what should have been recognized. So I just wanted to clarify that that is the actual problem that this application is faced with, that in all the other licensings that we have done, we have always registered the portion of that number, because what we have done is we have preserved the whole area to the city, which licensing relates to the actual operation. So in this instance, you have areas that are not even that don't even have any development. They would be falling into that license of the city. I hope I've clarified the issue, Chairperson. Thanks.
Maybe can I ask like this? Do we have a precedence on this issue, and how was the precedence resolved? Or is this the first one, the only one?
I would ask Mr. Ramukoka to come in.
Yes. Thanks, Chairperson. I think we do have precedence with Midval, wherein a farm 8 flat was recorded in Eskom's license. However, Midval applied for electrification of a portion of 8 flat, wherein they were doing some development there. And however, the energy regulator took a decision to license that portion of a farm of which appeared on Eskom's license in that manner. So we do have precedence on this one, and the energy regulator has done a similar decision on an area developing within a farm. Thank you, Chairperson. I hope
Okay, I think it has helped, but Mr. Murati, can you clarify this once and for all, that is the challenge here the fact that we license operations, we don't license construction? So whoever already has facilities or has got an operation in a particular area, then that area rightfully belongs to that person. Is that the issue here?
With one of the issues that we have had a challenge with is that with the distribution industry, you have infrastructure that crosses different properties, but when it comes to distribution, we license an area and not a customer supplied. So until such that there is a plan in place for the development of the area with the satisfaction of the map that details the infrastructure that is going to be placed in the space, that is when we do the licensing. But as for the existing infrastructure that crisscrosses properties, those infrastructures are not licensed.
Okay. So again, maybe if you can then, because I think this links very nicely with the question asked by Madam Maseti. What are the chances? Because what I'm hearing you explaining is that we licensed as NERSA a broad area when in fact we should have licensed the sub areas within. But now what we are saying is that the sub area within this particular area was already supplied by Eskom. Already has an infrastructure by Eskom, and Eskom is applying to actually develop this area. And so we are saying to the energy regulator, authorize this. Now the question is, what are the probabilities that we could be taken to court successfully, and actually our decision be reviewed, Mr. Murat?
It's a difficult one in terms of what we can be certain about is as guaranteed by Section 10, any person can take us to court. The success of that application would depend on issues that relates to how review is considered. In this regard, we have satisfied the issue of procedural fairness. We have satisfied the issues, the legality issues in terms of us having applied the industry law to the T. The issue that has been raised regarding the Section 156. Chair, Section 156, we relatively only have one judgment that talked to the issue of reticulation. There's no statutory definition of it that has satisfied the aspect. And that judgment was within a matter involving NERSA and Ekurhuleni, wherein the city raised that aspect of saying they should be the supply should have been given to the city instead of it being given to Eskom. And the court in that judgment concluded that the interpretation of the executive authority that the municipality has regarding reticulation, it only relates to an area where they have services or a right over the space. It is not supposed to be applied generally in the context of a preserved right. So that is the only judgment which, unfortunate enough, the matter was settled between the parties before the Supreme Court of Appeal judgment. So in this regard, the city can challenge the decision, but it will have to satisfy a lot of requirements that in the engagement with the city, they failed to establish the existence of a substantive right that can make them, that could render the decision of the energy regulator incorrect. But in terms of them going to court, yes, they can. Madam Maseti raised the issue of engagement of the legislations that it could have dealt with. We have the Municipal Systems Act, which deals with the issue of municipalities having to appoint service providers and municipalities remaining the service authority. This is the matter where the distinction between that provision of Systems Act and what is before the energy regulator is that the right needed to be conferred to a person, to a municipality over a particular area to enable the applicability of that particular section. And it is acceptable that within there's a distinction between the application of Electricity Regulation Act and the Demarcation Act, the Municipal Demarcation Act. So we don't have it's actually no relationship between the two legislation. So in this regard, the city does not have a substantive right that enables the application of that particular section. The other law that is applicable is the Intergovernmental Relations Framework that deals with the disputes between organs of state. The issue that we are having is a regulatory exercise that NERSA needed to complete the exercise of that right before that particular issue of dispute can be raised. And the unfortunate part about the Intergovernmental Relations Framework is that the National Energy Regulator Act has a provision that decisions of the regulator are subject to review by courts. They are not matters that could be, the decisions cannot be amended by the application of Intergovernmental Relations Framework unless a court action that has been launched. The parties agree to refer to alternative dispute resolution process. That is the only other time that a decision of the regulator, but there must be a court action that delays that deals with that. So those are the legislations that comes to mind that relates to the issue that Madam Maseti has raised. Thank you.
Thank you. Do you want to tackle the last question, the distribution code, section 7?
Thanks, Chairperson. In terms of processing this application, we do consider the distribution code, section 7, and also it got expression in the rules that we use to as an instrument to process this application. So yes, ESCOM provided their network development plan that is also explained in section paragraph 4.4. However, the municipality on this Mooikloof or on this portion, they did not have any network development plans for the future of this area. So with that in mind, then that is why the application was processed as that, as in line with the rules. Thank you, Chairperson.
Thank you, Mr. I don't know if we've dealt with the second question from Mr. Mkhize, Mr. Ramkok.
Thanks, Chairperson. The issue of the question of Mr. Mkhize talks to compliance conditions, right? I think maybe Mr. Murati will also assist me there with my after saying my bite. The compliance conditions are only set for the already approved areas wherein the right, if the right has been granted, then there's conditions attached to that right. So in terms of as future electrification, there's no compliance to those, or maybe conditions attached to an application relating to a future electrification. So that's how I can we only attach compliance conditions on approved areas of supply or network operations, but not on future projects or future applications. Thanks. If I did not, Mr. Murati will assist me there. Thanks, Chairperson.
There was a bit of feedback. I don't know who else. Somebody else is open, as mic is open. Please, if you can close that, please, colleagues. There was a bit of feedback there. Mr. Murati, do you want to add?
Chair, I think what Mr. Ramkok touched on is more on the administrative side, but from a legal side, and probably I might be having a different interpretation to the question that Member Mkhize has raised, that to look at the issues of compliance, not to burden a non-compliant entity, it's whether we can look into that. The unfortunate part is that the rationality principle, and this will lead to the question that Madam Maseti has raised, that the avoidance of members raising irrelevant issues in a consideration of an application would lead to an irrational decision. What I'm saying is that the issue of compliance, the law has identified the spaces where the regulator can raise the issues of compliance. And when the issue of licensing is requested, the invoking of matters that the regulator should have dealt with when non-compliance have been identified, and there is no conclusion that confirms the existence of non-compliance, it will expose the decision of the regulator to irrationality and the reviewability that Madam Maseti was talking about. Thank you.
All right, members, we've actually been talking on this item for close to an hour now. I guess I'd let it flow because it's a matter that is long overdue in terms of a decision. But I'm hoping that although it's not a straightforward case here because of the issues that were clarified by Mr. Murati, But I'm hoping that we'll be confident enough for us to actually make a decision on this one, to actually give to license or to actually accept the recommendations that have been put forward by the team, taking into account all of the comments that we've raised and the enhancements that might need to be effected on the RFD to clarify exactly some of the issues that may not be quite clear. So members, I'm really hoping that today we can actually reach a decision on this. And unfortunately, the way the submission is written is that the recommendations are supposed to be paragraph 13, but they actually it's been conflated with paragraph 12. So it's the actual recommendations are listed as 12.1 and 12.2, when in fact they're actually 13.1 and 13.2. And I think the CEO had actually in the addendum had actually corrected the numbering. So maybe if we were to use the numbering, the one that is put in which is handwritten there, if we could actually maybe use that for a decision, members. So I'd like to take the members to that decision that is requested of us, that the ELS approve the schedule, that schedule 1 of the Eskom distribution license be amended to include Mooikloof Mega City, and then 2, that the polygon for the Mooikloof Mega City be included and highlighted with corresponding NERSA EDR electricity distribution number on the National Energy Regulator GIS system for distribution areas of supply. And then thirdly, that the tariffs that to be charged in the Mooikloof area, in the Mooikloof Mega City development, be NERSA approved Eskom distribution tariffs. So those are the recommendations, members. I'm hoping that we'll be in a position to actually approve them. By show of hands, members, if we can, with all of the amendments that have been, the proposed amendments. Thank you, Mr. Pukula. Thank you, Madam Maset. Thank you, Advocate, and thank you, Mr. Mkhize. With that, we've got your decision, but it is a very difficult decision. I think, colleagues, we do need to clarify this properly, because otherwise we're going to have very similar issues like we did with Midval, like we did with the latest one, in terms of that mini grid that was being applied for. So, Mr. Murati, if you can assist the team here, we do need to actually clarify this thing properly. Thank you. With that, we've taken a long time. And also include that explanation from Mr. Murati. Noted. Thank you. We've taken a long time, and apologies. Hopefully, the others are going to flow a whole lot easier. If we can then go to item 6, please, Mr. Mavuso.
Thanks, Chair. Chair, this one is a consultation paper in terms of concurrence to three projects. One is a 1,000 megawatts called cross-border procurement. The other one is 2,000 megawatts load shedding reduction program, and 800 megawatts, which is emergency power. I think the centerpiece, Chair, of this submission is the whole issue of the letter of exemption from the minister that we received last week to say that Eskom is exempted from complying with the new gen regulations. I would like to draw members to the table 2, where, for example, we tabulating the process that we're going to follow, which will culminate to an ER decision. At least that's our intention. On the 25th of April 2023. I would like Willie to come in and just give the details. Thanks.
All right, Mr. Mkhize Jr.
Thank you, Chairperson. I greet you, Chair, members, and staff. We will take this submission as read. However, I will just give a brief background in terms of the 2 submissions. I will request the Chair to submit to present both the submission that was introduced by Mr. Mavuso and also the 344 megawatts determination that was supposed to be presented in the last ELS, but which has been moved to this ELS. So, as we know, the president announced various measures to deal with load shedding in July 2022. Subsequently,
yes, sir. Madam Massetti?
Sorry, Chair.
Madam Massetti? Oh, okay. Please proceed, Mr. Mkhize.
Thank you, Chair. Subsequently, the Energy Action Plan was developed through the NECOM, which was the National Energy Crisis Committee, which was to give effect to the range of interventions announced by the President. So these Section 34s are the minister's exercise of his powers according to Section 34 in order to give effect to the energy plan. Secondly, the just energy transition is being implemented through the repurposing and repowering of Komati Power Station by Eskom's development of a number of projects. Therefore, to give effect to the Energy Action Plan, the Minister is determined to procure the following, as already outlined by Mr. Mavuso: 1,000 megawatt cross-border procurement program, 2,000 megawatts from the load shedding reduction program, and then also 800 megawatts from the emergency procurement program. And then to give effect to the JET, the Minister is determined that Eskom should develop 344 megawatts of new generation capacity, according to the following: 75 megawatts from solar PV at Letabo Power Station, 19.5 megawatts of solar at Sierra in the Western Cape, and 1,000 megawatts from solar PV at Komati Power Station, and then lastly 150 megawatts of battery energy storage from Komati Power Station. I just want to correct the fact that it's 100 megawatts from Komati Power Station. And then I draw members to Section 14 of the submissions, both submissions, and I recommend that the ELS should note the proposed determinations in the annexures, to also note the letter from the Minister of DMRE for the exemptions, and then to approve the consultation papers that are attached to the annexures, and then to note the indicative concurrence timelines in Table 2. With that, Chair, I thank you, and I hand back over to you. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mkhize. Members, Mr. Mkhize Jr. has presented items 6 and 7 together. So it's those consultation papers which are listed under item 6, and also the consultation paper on the item that are listed under item 7. So in terms of engagement, can we engage with both? But when we make a decision, we'll actually make a decision on one after the other. Any questions, members? It's at this stage the consultation paper. We are just consulting with the public. I'm not sure, members, if you've got any comments on the consultation paper, or on the determinations themselves, or maybe on the letter. By show of hands, members, if there are any questions. Okay, if none, I guess it's clear, and I guess we will still get an opportunity to engage with this once the matter has been consulted on. So we're not going to go deep into the content at this stage. So if I can take you in terms of item number 6, take you to paragraph 14. That's where the recommendation is, and Mr. Mkhize has gladly read it into the record for us. So if I can take you there, members, by show of hands, would we then approve? Can we recommend? Can we approve, note first those two items, the first two items, and then approve the consultation paper? Madam Massetti, noted. Mr. Pokula, I also note. Thank you, Mr. Mkhize, as well. And thanks, Advocate. So you've got a decision, Mr. Mkhize. So can we, members, then go again straight to item number 7? It's the same number, paragraph 14. Again, on that one, by show of hands, members, can we approve this one? Thank you, Madam Massetti. Thank you. Thanks, members. Thank you, Mr. Pukula, Advocate, and Mr. Mkize. Thank you. Mr. Mkize Jr., you've got your decision. So now let's go to item number 8. Mr. Mavuso.
Thanks, Chair. Chair, this submission is we are considering here the ESCOM retail plan. ESCOM submitted this application in August 2022, and ESCOM, Chair, had last applied for revisions or changes in its tariff structures in 2012. And in terms of what they are proposing, it's here are the basis of the changes. They are based on updating tariffs with cost to serve results, and implementing certain objectives such as pricing signal, and then changes to minimum impacts and effects on subsidies. Yeah, those are the hallmarks of the application by ESCOM. Thank you very much. And Belani will come in and then explain the details.
All right, but as you I thought you were going to indicate that this matter has served before, and we've had a workshop on it. So and the members had already committed. But Mr. or Dr. K, please go ahead, and remembering that you've already presented this a few times now. Thanks.
Yes, thanks, Chair. So yes, we've presented this a few times. I think it's served 3 times at ELS. We had 2 workshops with members. If you consider the first version of the plan, we also had 2 public hearings. I just want to bring members' attention to the recommendations, which are on page 10 of 116, that table there. Thanks, Chair.
Thank you. So you're not even going to even talk to those in terms of what those what those are?
Okay, I can do that, Chair. So, all right. So basically, in the workshop we had with members, there was a recommendation that maybe we need to summarize each recommendation and its benefits and related risks, as well as the legal implications of those recommendations. So on page 10, that's where the summary of the recommendations are. I'm not sure if members would want to approve each recommendation separately, or maybe exclude the ones that are not supported. So, but Chair, basically that's the crux of the submission. Thanks.
Thank you. And then considering that it's actually a recommendation to ER, do we actually go to length in terms of actually detailing what each one is, or would that be explained better at ER? What's your view, Dr. K? Or maybe even Mr. Murati? So we don't err, we don't make a mistake here.
I'm not sure, but I suppose because at this stage it's just the principles that ESCOM still needs to incorporate into the ERTA application for 23-24. I think at this stage maybe it's just to look at the recommendations, but I'm not sure how we should approach this one, Chair. Yeah.
All right, Mr. Murati, before I give it over to members, what's your recommendation? Do we go to this and actually talk about each item that is recommended, or which item is not recommended in detail?
Chair, I've missed the part but the network was breaking up. I didn't get the correct question.
No. My question is that because this is being recommended, ELS is not making a decision. We are recommending to ER. So there are some decisions there that, in terms of the detail, do we actually just go through them in detail like that, or should we leave the detail to when the matter is presented at ER?
So before I expose my challenges, maybe Mr. Chokwe can come in and assist on this one.
Members, if it's not an issue in terms of your tackling with the issue with this matter, I would give it to you, but Mr. Chokwe can guide. I'll just open it to members for comment. because at the workshop it was different, because it was a workshop, it was a closed workshop, so we could actually go to those individual items one by one and actually deliberate on them. But my question here is, to the extent to which this is a recommendation to ER, would we not end up making decisions that perhaps don't belong to this committee? Mr. Chokwe? Anyway, members, we are asked to recommend. I guess, can I get questions from you? If any questions and comments in terms of what we are asked to actually recommend. And the recommendations are tabulated on page 2 of 108, and the reasons and the risks associated therewith. Any questions, members, or comments? Madam Asset.
Thank you, Chairperson. Chairperson, I just want to ask a question relating to the other process that we
lost you there, Madam Asset.
have established. One that I'm going to discuss in this meeting, but Ralph mentioned. Can you hear me? Are you able to hear me, Chair?
Now we can. We had lost you completely earlier. If you can start again, please.
Oh, okay, sorry, Chair. Maybe my internet is unstable because of load shedding since 10 o'clock. Chairperson, I was saying this question has to do with the sequencing of the processes that are currently before us for a decision. One of the processes is that EDPM process, which is the sort of the methodology that we are trying to come up with, and also a position where we intended to make sure that we, the energy regulator, implements its powers that are in Section 15 of the Electricity Regulation Act. Also, insofar as a determination of the tariffs are concerned for Eskom. So it's one of the principles that are contained in that EDPM process, which we're going to discuss later. So the question of sequencing comes as a result of that. Such that if we are going to sort of make this decision, whether at this point it is a recommendation, but the implication is that we need to, firstly, before implication, we need to thoroughly process the matter, the application by Eskom, and the implications of the decision we might take at this point. In terms of its implications on the EDPM process. So I would like to be clarified as to where exactly are we going. I know that in that process we'll be dealing with the roadmap, but if in the application we have to deal with now, we need to pronounce on what Eskom is requesting. We just need to be certain what is the regulator seeking to achieve here in terms of fulfillment of the requirements of Section 50. If Eskom has already taken an initiative and has brought before us this application, and now we have to take a decision on this application, the question is, some of those principles in that EDPM, will they still be applicable and valid if already some of those are already taken care of here? So that sequencing, it also goes with, where are we heading? What are we intending to achieve? I'm hoping that I will be clarified on that. There are also some, challenges that were or concerns that were raised by various stakeholders, and I would have expected that our RFDs in the actual assessment, would deal with some of those key concerns raised by stakeholders in terms of the practicality and the implications or impact of what Eskom is proposing here. Unfortunately, I did not see the the discussion relating to the concerns raised by stakeholders and the response by Eskom, but also the independent view of the regulator insofar as those concerns have been raised. So, and some of them also, they deal with the issues of sort of competition, especially by renewable, the IPPs, as to what some of the proposals made by Eskom, what impact would it have on those other programs. I see that, yes, we've touched a little bit even on the concerns raised by the intensive group users, intensive energy users group on paragraph 6, but with regards to paragraph 9, with regards to the rest of other concerns that were raised, they are not covered in the RFD. So I just wanted to bring that to the attention of the team chairperson, that we need to improve the analysis of the concerns raised by stakeholders. Thank you, chairperson.
Thank you, Madam Massetti. Mr. Mkiza?
Thank you, Chairperson, and thanks to the presenters. From my side, it's more of just how this whole issue is presented. Like if you look at, I'll go to page 10. Yes, it's nice to have tables, they help. But I think when we engage, my understanding was that the main issue here was that there were those matters that we could deal with immediately, which also gave immediate benefit to all concerned, if I can put it like that. Now, I thought maybe if one, in terms of the recommendations, there one has got a more of a narrative that this was what was required. Because we understand what was required. The opening line being that we have taken a stance to approve certain aspects of what was recommended and not to approve others, because we need time to properly engage thereon and investigate those. That for me is the key issue. No matter, I know there are various ways one can phrase that, but for me that is key. That there are these things that can be done, effected immediately, and those that we need to investigate. And then based on the comments, I was hoping that in the submission you will also highlight the comments that were raised in the workshop and how you have responded to them. For example, if you look at what is in 1.1 of the table, you find a situation where you're talking of that percentage there. If I recall, I had even asked to say, looking at the sustainability of the NTT vis-a-vis the situation of the increase that has been effected this year and next year, in terms of our tariffs, why can't we have this phased in? Not to be seen as if you are taking from Paul to pay Peter. So it's just to be able to understand that, and a little bit of refinement in how this is the recommendation is actually captured. Like when you're looking at the time of use, where in the beginning, in terms of the recommendation, one would expect that we will state clearly what the time of use is, and then the basis for our approval, and then the implications. I'm not so sure whether the implications must be restricted to legal or not, as if we are taking decision being too much concerned about litigation instead of taking decisions that are actually sound and for the benefit of South Africa incorporation. I will leave it at that from my side. But in essence, as I had indicated my support for the selective approval. I still stand with that, but it should be clear that we're not just cherry picking or just taking those without reason. So the reason must come out very clear as to why, and also juxtapose it, as Madam Maseti has said, with the process that we're embarking upon in terms of the review of the pricing methodology. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mtiza. Mr. Pugula, I saw your hand came up, but you've lowered it. I'm not sure if you still want to raise your questions, sir. With connectivity, we do lose people. I'm not sure whether Mr. Pugula is still on the call. I can't see him on my side. Thank you. Now I can see you.
Mr.
Yes,
Komeda, I'm still on, but I think I was losing Mr. Mkhize, and I then told myself it's not all lost. I'm sure it's something we can deal with in the other meeting. But I was going to say that in my view, I mean, what is being recommended here, because it is going to shape what the ERSA would be. We would need to be decisive on what needs to be implemented now or on what needs to still be checked. But I'm comfortable with the recommendations, and I think that we'll have to be firm in the decision. I would have even preferred that this meeting is more firm on what is being proposed, and just for the regulator to approve. Thank you, Mr. Mkhize. Thank you, Mr. Komeda.
Thank you, Mr. Pugula. I must admit, I'm also hoping that, and considering that, unfortunately, we do need to have a decision here that, because Eskom needs to prepare its ERSA. So whatever that and I was actually going to, right at the end, members, I was going to then ask that, considering that we already had an extended ELS workshop on this matter, that this, whatever decision that we arrive at, that it then be put, but it must be succinct, it must be clear, it must be detailed, it must be put for a decision via round robin. I was going to really plead with the members on this one, because if we don't make a decision soon on this, Eskom will not be able to prepare an ERSA. And they need to actually have an ERSA so that they can then be able to they need to prepare that and actually submit to us for approval or for consideration, so that by the 15th they will then be able to have tariffs. So yeah, I do agree with you. Yeah, Mr. Pugula, you are yeah, thanks. You've now muted yourself. Madam Maseti.
Thank you, Chairperson. Chairperson, I hear you with regards to the implementation of what is before us. I must also just express my reservations when it comes to sort of the urgency of this decision. Sometimes it will drop us an opportunity where we thoroughly consider the impact of these sort of decisions, particularly because there's profound changes that are in the application by Eskom. And as we sit here today, we have not done much in terms of the impact of this and the readiness of the industry to now do things in the manner that Eskom has proposed. So I'm just not sure about us in matters of this nature, where there are profound changes that are being requested, that especially if our own analysis does not deal with the impact of these changes and even the cost-benefit analysis of some of these changes. So we don't have a sense, and therefore our regulatory decisions might have far-reaching implications on the industry and other customers, of which interest and needs may not be catered sufficiently by the decision that we're taking. So I worry when we have to implement these matters very quickly, and only because Eskom indicated that it needs to, come up with its ERSA. It used to come up with ERSA even prior to what it has proposed to us. So we have not made, also profound changes in the current methodology ourselves. And now we rush into come into making decisions on this, and we say it must be implemented immediately. I really worry about that, Chairperson, and I think that it's important that I raise it at least here, and so that it is something that all of us we can look into and see what areas we will be much more comfortable with in taking this work forward. Thank you.
Thank you. Your hand is up, Mr. Pokula. You follow up?
Yes, Chair. I think for me, when I was saying we'll have to deal with it in the regulator, I think I was aiming at saying that we are not going to be implementing any of these changes prior to us having done all of the analysis that needs to be done. So Eskom can continue to do the ETSA with the principles that it's been using, or with the current existing rules of ETSA. And it also doesn't take away anything from that we are deciding. But in this case, we are being cautious because we don't have a feel of the implications of these things. And we think we do have a feel that when it comes to Eskom, they are not going to be worse off by these things not being implemented in 1 year. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Mr. Pokula. Okay. Before you respond, Mr. Mavuso and the team, I think, can I also, as you know my guidance on this, and I think Madam Asteti captured me very well as well, that, in terms of the changes, the wholesome changes, whilst we are still going through this process, we do need to be cautious, colleagues. So as you respond, I think, to the members, Mr. Mavuso and team, please take that into account and then answer the question. I mean, there are certain things, for instance, the time of use tariff, it does not need, as you say, it's not predicated on the cost to serve. That ratio 1:8 is an arbitrary number. It's arbitrary in the sense that it's not based on a cost to serve. And if they want to change it from 1:8 to 1:6, it's not going to. It's basically it doesn't need. It's because it's not predicated on principles of 15.1. Which is supposed to reflect the cost to serve a particular client. It's more a signal. They can go ahead and do that. And also, perhaps the question is, in terms of the municipalities that they may be charging using a different tariff, which already they have in their arsenal. Why can't they continue doing that? Because it's a decision that's well within their control. So, but before you then respond, I'm just guiding here, because I think the sentiment as you hear is that we need to have a thorough assessment of the implications. That by the time when we make a decision, we must understand what the implication of the decision is, especially in an environment that is changing at this stage. We don't want to make a bad decision and end up with something that's worse than what we currently have, especially because there's some parts that we're not recommending anyway in terms of the fixed charge. But before I give it to you for response, I assume, Mr. Pokula, your hand is a lingering hand, and I'll ask Mr. Mkhize to then come in.
Yes, it is. Apologies.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Mkhize, follow up?
Yeah, thanks. I think I would support again. Maybe I did not get Mr. Pokula clearly on some of the things that he had said, but I support that. Let's just be very decisive and firm on this. There are matters here that we need not delay to consider, and we're saying we're going ahead and we're approving them. And those also that were outright not approving, we're saying that we like the removal of the IPT, but we're saying that those issues that we are not approving, it's not that they will never be revisited in terms of after having done in-depth analysis, and then coming to get Eskom then to other, depending on the legal process to follow, whether they then, yes, after that investigation, they send another application that will then deal with those issues in detail, and therefore a decision may be taken. We've decided that, not we've decided, the recommendation is clear that there are certain things that can be affected now, here and now, and they've got immediate benefits. And they are articulated, like the issue of the Royal Night Save as a tariff that is very high in this environment, economic environment. It makes sense, and it can be a question of the team then. If something is not properly articulated, I think it's up to us to pinpoint what is it that is not properly articulated, and then they improve on the articulation. But as far as the issues are concerned, I must state that I'm happy with those. It can be a question of the articulation, which then must be firmed up, and it is clear for all, whether talking to a layman or to a specialist. I'll leave it at that. Thank you.
All right. Mr. Mkhize, I think perhaps the way you've seen it, I mean, the sentiment I was getting from the other members, the other two members that have commented, is one that simply says, unless we've got a full understanding of the implication of these changes, whatever changes that might be, we would rather delay this, even if it's delayed for a year, until we've got a full understanding of these things. And Eskom already has an ERSA, a structure, a tariff structure anyway, to the extent to which they can use the existing tariff structure. And I guess, and also then to integrate this with the current processes that we are embarking on in terms of the methodology itself. So that's the sentiment that I was getting from the other members, is that the concern is here, is that if we make a change, I mean, as I'm simply saying, yes, there are those obvious ones. So maybe we can ask the team to identify those obvious ones, which in fact are well within Eskom to effect anyway. Those changes, that the team can identify those, and then we can make a decision on whether we are actually accepting those. And then the rest of them, which still needs to have a detailed analysis and to see how those integrate with the new processes and so forth, that then can be left until we actually, Mr. Mkhize, I see your hand is up again, so I can put this thing to the team to respond.
May I just echo one sentiment from my side, and then that would be the last one. My understanding is that this submission has done exactly that, to say rationalization of tariffs, municipal tariffs, the Royal Night Save being done away with, say, for example, it is articulated. It is there. I support that. I support that the other matters, for example, including, the time of use, supported, right? That change. They need to then improve in terms of maybe indicating what the benefits or the merits and demerits are, and how to mitigate if there are any demerits. That I would appreciate. And then maybe if you can mute Mr. Chairperson from your side for now, and then I will, yeah, thank you. And the others are the ones that you are saying we are not sure of what the implications are, although some of them we can be leaning on not approving anyway based on what we have, but we need to further investigate. And I'm saying I'm okay with those then being looked at years later. So my difference with the if there's any, because in the beginning I thought there wasn't a difference. If there's any difference, is that I say that those that they say we must approve, I'm satisfied that they've explained as to why they should be approved. And those that they said must not be approved, they're not saying that they're kicking them out and not finding any way back, but they're saying we need to further investigate this so they can understand the whole implications thereof. And once we've put this to ESCOM in terms of being decisive on our side. It would then help us in terms of getting a response and have the ERSA then crafted in line with what we have approved on our side. I hope I'm clear. Thank you.
Mr. Mkhize, we are clear. Can I then maybe just take this to back to you, Mr. Or Dr. Konjelai, if you can just clearly indicate which ones you say we should approve and which ones you say we should not approve, but give reasons in terms of why we're saying we should approve those, and also that we actually have a full understanding of the implication of the change. Maybe can I give it a spin and ask and say, even if we are approving those, is it something that really requires a change in the ERSA, or is it something that ESCOM can do anyway? Over to you, Dr. K. But be explicit on those issues that you want us to, we are proposing to the to the ELS to recommend, and then maybe just those, because then the rest won't actually need to be considered, but with reasons.
All right, thanks, Chair. I'm not sure if you can hear me, because where I'm sitting there is a serious storm here, and unfortunately my office is corrugated iron, so I don't know if you can hear me, Chair.
No, we can clearly hear you. There's storm where I am as well. Thanks.
Okay, all right. So Chair, just from the beginning, in terms of the first recommendation, the recommendation around the changes to align with the cost to serve study. So we used the example of the business rate. So customers that are buying from ESCOM at the business rate tariff, they have been, so the tariff has been over recovering revenues based on the cost of supply by about 20%. So we are recommending that changes to align the tariffs with the cost to serve be approved. And the reason we say that is also because in terms of the electricity pricing policy, ESCOM needs to update their tariffs every 5 years. In fact, all distributors, including ESCOM, we've done this for a couple of municipalities which have updated their tariffs. So we're recommending that we approve those changes to align tariffs with cost. So this specific tariff is because it's one of the most that are over recovering. And then to answer Mr. Mkhize's question, so from the point of view of ESCOM, they will be revenue neutral, so they won't be worse off by doing this change, because this change is also done in conjunction with other changes. So from the utilities point of view, their revenue requirement stays the same, so they are revenue neutral. The only people or the consumers will literally benefit from this tariff, the ones that are on this tariff, because it will be so we can phase it in, but to be honest, I think it should be done once and for all, because it will actually benefit consumers and the economy in general, because this business rate tariff is for commercial customers. So it will provide a relief for those customers as well. And then the time of use, they're also recommending approval.
Sorry, Dr. K, so that we actually close this one issue. When we are saying ESCOM will remain revenue neutral, so in terms of the revenue, so if they were over recovering from this group of customers, and when you drop the 20% from them, where then do they collect this 20% that they were over recovering from this group of customers for them to stay revenue neutral?
So we can. There is a table, Chair. I'm not sure where it is on the submission, but it shows you overall which customers would either be paying more, a little bit more, and which customers would be paying less. So the question is that in the last few years, when they were over recovering, who was paying for them? So other customers obviously were paying more than they should have been paying. So that relief, that revenue that's going to be reduced from business rate will go to other customers, which would have been paying less than what they should have been paying. So it's a balancing exercise. As I said, it has to be revenue neutral.
You see, Dr. K, that's the challenge here. So what we are saying is that we drop 20% from the business rate, but others increase. The question is, which others increase? And is that increase in this current framework, is that something that is been well considered and well thought out? Because if you are saying something is going to be revenue neutral, it's clear when you drop 20%, because the revenue doesn't change. So when you drop 20% from one, it means you are increasing others. So for members to be able to make a proper decision, they need to be quite clear that when we are saying we're dropping this 20% here, these are the ones that are going to go up, so that the decision that the members are making is an informed decision. So that's why I'm asking if you can maybe assist the members as well. You can direct them to that, so they can make the proper decision.
Okay, Chair, let me try and find the table. It's right towards the end of the submission. So, Chair, at this point, we did. Okay, let me just find it before I continue commenting on this one. Sorry, Chair, just a second. It would be on page. Page. If you use the bottom page numbers 86 of 108. So those are the revenue impacts from all customers. All right. So Chair, so if you look at, I don't know if you found the page there, the table 44.
Yes, table 44. Yes.
Yeah. So those are. Yes, Chair. So if you go to the state column or row from the right of the table, it shows you all the impact. So the customers that will be worse off is the public lighting, Miniflex, Transflex, as well as public lighting for non-local municipalities. So those are the customers that will pay more. So that discussion, we've had it with ESCOM several times to say, because they're insisting that, in fact, the cost of supply study shows that these customers, this category is actually under recovering. So those are the customers that will be paying more. But now there is still a possibility. So the principle is that you align to cost to serve. But when you do the ERTA, you still have a room to maneuver to say, which we still have a discussion with ESCOM to say, instead of recovering this over 1 year, this can be recovered over 3 to 4 years to align with costs. So that's a discussion that we will still bring when we do to ERTA. For now, the principle is around aligning cost to tariffs. And then when we do the ERTA, then that's where because then we'll have the revenues for 2020 for the next financial year, and then we'll do individually each and every tariff, and then have that discussion to say, even if you're talking about aligning to cost, at what point do we say is it affordable to customers? So we'll do that assessment. I see Mr. Mercedes asking exactly. Ms. Masset is asking exactly about that. So that's the issue. So we can still do that. We have an opportunity when we look at the ERTA to address all of those issues around how do you balance all of this.
Okay, please continue. At least the members now have the detail. I think when they make a decision, they will take that into account.
All right. Okay. If I go to the time of use, we're recommending approval. As you rightfully stated, Mr. Committee, that it's not really so much about cost, because time of use is more about sending signals. So it does not necessarily cost customers 8 times more if they consume around peak in summer. So, but what we've done, there's a lot of detail in the actual RFD. So we can still also try between now and ER to improve on it. But what we've done, we've looked at the impact on customers as well as the utility. And the benefit there is that when time of use tariffs are introduced, or they're already there, or when that changes, that allow customers to shift their load, we can see a benefit of about between 5 and 10% reduction in energy consumption for those customers, notwithstanding the fact that this is not really aligned to ERA in terms of the tariffs must reflect the cost to provide a service. But also considering that the EPP does allow that for large power users who have the ability to shift their load, the time of use tariff is one of the most effective measures to manage consumption, especially during peak time. So we are also recommending that one, Chair.
But as you rightly point out, it's not based on a cost to serve, right? It's just a signal, and also you are making reference to EPP, but it's not based on a cost to serve, and it does not necessarily talk to section 15.1a. 15.1 of the of ERA, correct?
Yes, Chair.
All right. Continue. The next one.
The rationalization of municipal tariffs, we're also recommending that, notwithstanding the fact that there are so many other issues that are pertaining to this one, including the issue around the unbundling of and the transmission company coming out of Eskom and the wholesaler. So there are those issues, but as Mr. Mkiza was saying, that the issue around Rural Night Safe, it's an issue that's been a challenge for the regulator for a while, and we've tried to all other avenues in terms of seeing how Eskom can provide relief to those customers. So yes, we do understand that there are other issues that still need to be addressed around the rationalization of municipal tariffs. But as a temporary relief, and as I pointed out, for those customers or for those municipalities that are buying at this specific tariff, they will realize a reduction of up to 20% of their purchase cost. So we're talking specifically about customers that have more than half of their intake points based on Rural Night Safe specifically. So those would see an improvement. So we do recommend the approval of the rationalization of municipal tariffs.
But can I, again, just for clarity for members when they make a decision, is this something, because what we are saying is that the actual tariff itself, Rural Night Safe, you just say Eskom is wanting to stop that tariff, that Rural Night Safe as a tariff. Is that something that is not, is that change under 1.3 not something that is currently within Eskom's powers to do anyway? In terms of being able to sell power to different municipalities at a standard tariff, whether it's mega flex or whatever, is that not within Eskom's powers at this stage?
Yeah, not really, Chair, because what they are doing here is to simplify the tariff. So currently there are 13 tariffs for municipalities when they sell to municipalities. They want to reduce them to 2 major tariffs, one for large power users and the other for small power users. So I don't think it's something that, because it's a restructuring of tariffs, so it's something that has to come to the regulator. Along with that, doing away with the Rural Night Safe tariff.
Okay, so again, with the principle of revenue neutrality. So when these changes are made, are there any customers that are going to be worse off? If so, can you direct members to a table that they need to consider when they make that decision?
It's the same table, Chair, that I referred members to. So it shows all customers, the impact on all customers. So on this one, there are 1 or 2, but it's less than 5%. Even that, we still have an opportunity to have a discussion with Eskom when we do the ERSA. So just for now, we're just requesting the approval in terms of the principle, not the actual numbers. So when you look at the ERSA, members still have an opportunity to say when they look at the ERSA and they are not happy with the impacts, once we've done the assessment, there's still an opportunity to not approve.
Okay, which column? Again, remember, I'm trying to get to assist members to give you this decision. Which column?
Sorry, Chair, I'm going change between the. So I'm just going back to the same table.
So yes.
Yes. So if you look at, so we said it's the third row from the right, it shows the impacts. So if you look under non-local tariffs, basically, Chair, there are no tariffs that I can see that there is a negative impact. So in fact, others are actually declining. So we are supposed to be looking at local tariffs. Apologies. So for local tariffs, it's Munich flex, Munich rate, and public lighting. So the Munich flex and Munich rate, in fact, the Munich rate is actually declining, and the Munich flex, there is an increase of about 0.1. The issue is the public lighting, Chair, and that's based on cost of supply. So that's where we can have a discussion, because it has to be aligned to the cost of supply. If the principle around aligning tariffs to costs is approved. So it's a discussion around how much can municipalities absorb in terms of the increase that is proposed there, Chair.
All right, thank you. From members, it's table 44 again, when you make a decision. Okay, please continue. So 1.3 to 1.1 to 1.3, please continue.
And then, Chair, when you go to 1.4, Eskom wanted to increase the fixed component of their tariffs from 10 to 24%. We're not recommending that proposal. The reasons are
Dr. K, can I ask that we just focus on the ones which you are which you are recommending? That's all.
All right.
So that, yeah.
All right. So, Chair, the one that we are also recommending is 1.7, the conversion of the recovery of admin and service charges for each point of delivery. So, and the reason is that in the cost of supply framework, that these proposals are based on, actually states that all the service and admin charges must be recovered through for each point of delivery, irrespective of the number of accounts the customer has. But we also see a risk there of customers that when this consolidation happens, might actually pay more if they have a number of accounts. So we're also going to be assessing this on the ERSA as well to say there shouldn't be any negative impact on customers. So this is just to align with the cost of supply principle around how this cost should be allocated for each point of delivery.
But you are recommending 1.7?
Yes.
All right, please continue. Any other recommendation?
1.8 as well, Chair. We are recommending the approval of this new tariff, the home plate tariff for customers that have solar. Eskom will have this specific customer for customers to be able to feed it into the grid. But due to the legal advice we received from last in terms of offset rate, that we don't have a mandate to approve that offset rate. So we can approve the home plate tariff, the introduction of the tariff itself, without approving the offset rate until the issues around net billing and net metering have been clarified, Chair.
All right. There were questions asked by members on this home flex, other than the legal, the jurisdiction issue. If you can deal with that as well.
So this tariff will benefit those customers that are selling to Eskom, and this is aligned to one of the priorities of the NECOM, the National Energy Crisis Committee, which is to encourage customers to feed into the grid. So Eskom would have to have a mechanism or a process to move these customers into this new tariff as soon as they identify them, and they should be on the time of use tariff. The benefits of a time of use tariff is that when they feed into the grid if they have storage, for instance, if they feed during peak hours, they will be able to benefit from a higher feeding rate. Chair. So that will also, from the point of view of the NECOM, assist in terms of encouraging customers to feed into the grid.
All right. There were issues raised around the smart meters that allow for this process, and that the question would be, although you may recommend it, but it's the extent to which that recommendation makes sense. I mean, do you want to talk to that, please?
Yes. So the plan is that Eskom has a contract with one of the, I forgot the name of the company, so as soon as those customers are moved, they install time of use smart meters for them to be able to do this. So there is a plan to when they migrate, then they will be on time of use meters, smart meters.
All right. Okay. Thank you. Any other?
Initially, Chair, on 1.9, we had recommended that they wanted to fully unbundle home power. But Chair, I think I would like to modify this one to say, at this point, there shouldn't be any unbundling of home power, because when we had a discussion with Eskom, what we are saying to them is that if they have this home flat tariff in place and it's a fully unbundled tariff, and specifically for those customers that are on solar, then there is no need to unbundle home power. So I would like to modify the Chair to say we're not recommending the unbundling of home power at this point.
All right. No, thank you, Dr. K. Members, can I come back to you now? I'm hoping we can reach a decision, but it's going to be a succinct decision in terms of what we are recommending to ER. So members, I'm assuming that you have all the clarity in terms of what needs. So I'm going to go through each one of them one by one to see if there is support. For instance, if there is support for the recommendation and in that table for that recommendation for the immediate implementation of changes to the tariffs to align to the cost to serve, that 1.1. If there is there support, members, for that? that recommendation. By show of hands. I don't see any hands. I'll then move on to item number 2. By the way, advocates, I'm hoping now you can hear us. I know you're indicating you've got challenges with network, but you are back. Can you hear us?
Yes, Chair, thanks.
All right, now thank you. And then item number 2, colleagues, that time of use. The changes in the time of use from that ratio 1:8 to 1.6 to 1:6. That is the recommendation that we approve that, or we recommend approval of that. By show of hands, members, if we agree with that. I don't see any hands. Okay, advocate and Mr. Mkize and advocate. The 2 hands. There are 2 hands there. All right, let's move on to item number 3, the rationalization. Mr. Mabunda, you want to guide?
Chair, for record purposes, starting from resolution 1, where there were no hands, resolution 2, there were no sufficient hands. I think we need to close the matters as we go. If there's no hands, what is the position? If there's insufficient hands, what is the position? So we conclude as we go.
Okay, thank you for the guidance, Mabunda. So the conclusion on 1.1 was clear. There were no hands, and therefore the conclusion is that that recommendation is not approved by ELS. 1.2, there were 2 hands, insufficient hands, and therefore recommendation number 2 also does not have sufficient. It also doesn't carry. Madam Massetti?
Chairperson, I suppose the difficulty here, after the staff member tried to sort of clarify, there were some other issues that were not clarified, and then maybe also there was a lack of context in the sense that already the members of the subcommittee made proposals for this matter not to be implemented in the financial year 2023-2024. So as we get to the decision that is required, that aspect of the proposals raised by the members of the subcommittee, 2 members of the subcommittee, should have been put on the table so that we can then get to the part about whether now we are ready for a decision, noting the issue of relooking into some of these matters, Chairperson. And I'm raising this, Chairperson, because if we immediately get to the decision that is required, we have paragraphs in the RFDs. One of such paragraphs is paragraph 24.1 on the way forward. It states clearly the way forward. It says that what is proposed before us for a decision will have to be implemented in year 2023-2024. Now, what about the proposals and the reasons advanced by the 2 members of the committee that as proceed with what it has been using all along until some of the unknowns, as we have to take a decision, we've got unknowns, we have no idea what the impact is going to be until some of those issues, the regulator is comfortable and has done more work on those issues. Then we will have a year at least before the proposed RTP is implemented. Maybe that's the context that was lacking, Chair. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Massetti. I must admit, okay. Thanks for the guidance, Madam Massetti. I guess the issue was in trying to balance the proposal by Mr. Mkize for some of those things that can be implemented immediately. That's why I thought it would be best to then handle each one of those one by one, and then so that at least we would also have a very clear decision in terms of what we are recommending to ER. So that's why I've gone about it that way. So, and then of course, in the event that there are others that may be recommended but not recommended for the immediate implementation, which is what the current ERSA is about, is for immediate it's for the immediate implementation. The issue here is that, Madam Secretary, I guess where I was trying to guide is that although we may say yes, but maybe in later years, I wasn't taking I was not taking that into account. It's an error. I apologize for that. But that's what I was the actual decision. That's why I was actually going one by one on those issues that are being recommended, but with an understanding they are recommended for immediate implementation. So I'm hoping that is clarified. And I guess also with most, I was also taking into account the comments from two of the members who were then also saying, postpone this until you actually have an understanding, which is a view, I guess, that I also supported. I'm hoping that's clear, Madam Massetti.
Thank you, Chairperson. Yes, it is clear. It is just that, Chairperson, you can actually see that the members are not well aligned.
Yes.
And unfortunately, we couldn't get to that point where we are all well aligned. And this is so that matters are processed thoroughly here. By the time we get to the energy regulator, we can save a lot of time and in getting to a decision. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Madam Massetti. Okay, but can I maybe just conclude this one? We just had three more that we need to deal with. So 1.3 members, if I can put 1.3, the issue of that is proposed under 1.3. Let me just read it as well, and then to see if that one again is for immediate implementation, the rationalization, the rationalization of municipal tariffs. So how is that one, members? By show of hands, members, would you support that recommendation? Taking into account all of the issues that are currently underway, including the unbundling of RESCOM. Any supporter? Mr. Nkiza? Again, it's just one. So, Mr. Pokula, you support that too? So it's that, okay. Again, unfortunately, there were 2 out of 5 members, so that does not also carry. I must admit, personally, I do believe that the changes that are coming with the NTCA will probably change a lot of that anyway. 1.7 members, the conversion of the service charges with the concern that was raised. Yes, Advocate.
Sorry, are you counting yourself?
I am counting myself, yes.
Oh,
so
okay.
I would indicate if I support. Thanks. 1.7 members, the conversion of the service points. Any supporter for that? I see no hands. 1.8. So that one there was not. So that decision doesn't carry, Mr. Mabunda. 1.8, as is also indicated, that's the home flex one, the home flex tariff. Any supporter for recommendation? Thank you, Mr. Mkize. Okay, it's Mr. Mkize only. So on this one, it also doesn't carry. Thank you. So we have the decision. I think for me, the one thing that in closing this one would be to say, I think the overall sentiment, Dr. K, is one that says members are uncomfortable in making a decision until there's a full appreciation and understanding of the impact of these changes, especially taking into account all of the current changes that are happening. So, and it's as Madam Massetti was raising, it's the issue here is for the immediate implementation in 23-24. And so that is why the members are saying, no, we would rather have when we make a decision, we've got a full understanding of the implication. And also, of course, second matter, align it to the current processes in terms of the EPDM. So those are decisions, Dr. Konjelai, Mr. Mabunda, any guidance? I think we are done with this matter.
I think we are, Chair. However, I think it will also be okay if the subcommittee notes those that the team said they are not recommending, because they themselves, they are the recommendation as well to this subcommittee. To note or adopt them.
All right. Okay. Maybe can I? Do I need to go through them one by one, or can I just go directly to the actual and just say to note the rest of the ones that the team have not recommended?
In the interest of time, Chair, you can just sum them up.
All right. Members, can we then also note the recommendation that the team had indicated that they are not recommending, by show of hands, members, if we can note those as well as contained in the table or in the RFD. Can we note those? Thank you, Mr. Mkiza, you are noting. I also note advocate, I note number 2. Madam Aseti, Mr. Pokula? Okay.
So what are we noting? Sorry, Chairperson?
No, we are noting the ones that the team had recommended not to be approved, because there were those. So to complete the picture.
What are we noting, Chairperson?
Okay, your connection is not great, Madam Aseti. But what we are noting is that the team had recommended certain not to be recommended. So Mr. Mabunda was saying to complete the decision, we need to note that as well. Your hand, Mr. Pukula, was noted. Thank you. Thank you, Madam Aseti. I guess you are noting that as well, those items. Thank you for the guidance, Mr. Mabunda. If we can then go straight, I know we're doing very badly in terms of time. Apologies. Can we now go to item 9, please? Mr. Mabusa?
Yes, Chair. Chair, on this one, I'll give it straight to Elvis, but I wanted to make, Chair, some opening remarks. Just to say, I would like, I know, Chair, I might be biting more than I can chew, but I think this report can be enhanced maybe in a year's time, where we do a study, Chair, in terms of these projects, the actual load that has been removed from the grid because of registration. And the point is that through licensing and registration, we cannot really tell how much load has been removed from the grid. On the IPPs, we need to know, Chair, how many have been effectively connected to the grid, the capacity, the nature. The reason why, Chair, I'm saying maybe this is where we need to go is because, you know, we just on the IPPs alone, we are told that there's been 200 billion that has been invested. But 2021, 2022, 2023, we have reached unprecedented rolling load shedding. And but the point about it is that these projects, what actual impact do they have, like, to the electricity supply industry? With those words, Chair, I'll give it to Elvis to present the new entrance. Thanks very much.
Thank you. It is your, as you've indicated, you've given yourself something to do. I don't think members would actually object to that. So yeah, Elvis, if you can present, please.
Thank you, Chairperson. Good day, members and colleagues. The purpose of this submission is to request the Electricity Subcommittee to note the report as attached in Appendix A and approve the posting of the report on the NERSA website. The noting of the report is delegated to the Electricity Subcommittee as per paragraph 1.6 for registration and paragraph 3.6 for licensing. Chairperson, this report is covering all the license and the registered generation facilities that were processed and approved in 2022 calendar year. NERSA have registered 400.
Mr. Matikwana, sorry, I wanted to correct that. Is that in 2022? I mean, I'm just, are these things all done in 1 year, or were they up to 2022? Please correct that.
They were all done in 1 year.
Okay.
Yes, they were all done in 1 year. Yes, Chairperson, the NERSA registered 406 projects with a total capacity of 1,664 megawatts, and the investment cost for those projects were 25 billion rands. And the NERSA also licensed 8 battery storage system with a total charging and discharging capacity of 199 megawatts, with an investment cost of 2.2 billion rand, and also licensed 25 projects under the RIP program under bid window 5. The total capacity for those projects were 2,582 megawatts, and their total investment cost is 49 billion rand. In totally, the capacity that were registered and licensed, there were 4,446 megawatt, and the investment cost is 76.3 billion rand. Therefore, members are requested to approve the recommendation in section 15 of the submission. Thank you, Chairperson.
Thank you, Mr. Matukwane. Members, got the submission before us for comments, questions. Mr. Mabunda, you want to guide, sir?
Thank you, Chair. I was hoping that Mr. Mavuso would touch on this point, Chair. This is one of the submissions that was not signed. However, the signed version, we managed to get it, and we could not upload it so that we do not confuse members. So just to give members comfort that they are not working on the submission that is not authorized. We do have an authorized submission, but to avoid confusing members, we did not include it after we have published this one, Chair. Thank you. You may proceed.
Thank you, Mr. Mabunda. Yes, I was hoping that Mr. Mavuso would raise that as well. Members, we've got a submission before us for comments, questions. Any questions, comments? None? Okay, so if there are no questions, comments, it's a clear enough report. Can we then go to the recommendations, which are under paragraph 15? We've asked to note the report and then to approve that it be posted by show of hands, members. In case I saw your hand shot up and then it disappeared again. Advocate Stoller, Madam Massetti, Mr. Pokula. Mr. Mkiza, I assume that you are voting. Thank you, Mr. Mkiza. I also support. Thank you. You've got your decision, Mr. Mavuso. Can we then go to item 10, please? Sorry, before we do, Mr. Pokula, I assume it's an old hand? Or you wanted to add something?
No, it was an old hand, sir.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Pokula. Over to you, Mr. Mavuso. By the way, don't forget that issue. Anything that has not been authorized or there are no signatures, please indicate what actually happened. And we need to apologize to members for that, by the way.
Apologies, Chair, for this one. I also want to apologize to the CEO because we had discussed the matter before we came to this meeting, including Walter. So my humble apologies. Chair, on the issue of the this submission that is in front of us, I'll give it straight to Hotas.
Please proceed, Mr. Ranamana. I'm struggling with this one as well. Hotas, please proceed.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you, Chair. It's Ranamani.
Ranamane. Okay, thank you. Ranamane. Okay. Please proceed.
Thank you. Okay, thank you, Chair. Good day, members and colleagues. Chair, the purpose of this submission is to request the Electricity Subcommittee to note the progress made in the implementation of the corrective action plans in response to the electricity generation compliance audits conducted during the year of 2021. Chair, the noting of the progress report on the information gathered on electricity regulatory matters is dedicated to the ELS in accordance with clause 3.6 of the delegation matrix of 3 June 2021. The recommendations are set out in paragraph 14 of the submission said that the ELS subcommittee note the progress report on corrective action plans for the 2021 generation compliance audit findings as attached as Appendix A. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Madam Ranamane. Okay, members, you've got the submission before us. If we can engage with it, questions and comments, please. Any comments, questions? Doesn't seem like there are any. So in that case, Advocate Titoli?
Chair, just for my understanding, do we do this report once a year? Because I see it's for all the audits done in 2021, and we are now in 2023. I'm not sure if it's a report that comes in once. That can be clarified, Chairperson. Just the reporting periods for me. Thanks.
Thank you. There are no other questions, Madam. If you can assist us, the reporting period.
Okay, Chair. I see Tamai has his hand up, Chair.
All right. Mr. Hora, you want to respond?
Okay, I thought maybe she's not coming in, but yes, we do it once, so it's for the audits that would have been conducted in the previous year. So we do it once, but going forward with the new APP, we will be reporting quarterly on this same item. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. All right, so there's it follows on that discussion in terms of the APP, and that you'll then be reporting a quarter in arrears. Is that the case, Mr. Hora? So we are quite clear that it's you are reporting a quarter in arrears, though.
Yes, we will be reporting quarterly in arrears, but for this one, we are using the current APP where we were reporting only annually once for the audits that would have been conducted in the previous year when we are monitoring all the corrective action plans that we would have raised in the previous audits. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much. All right, with that question asked and answered, members, can I take you to the recommendation, which is on paragraph 14, that we are requested to note the progress report on the corrective action plans for 2021 generation compliance audit findings, which are attached as Appendix A. Members, with a show of hands, can we support that? Madam Assetti? I also support. Mr. Mkize is still in. Mr. Pukula and Advocate Titoli. I also support as well. Mr. Mkize, I noted your comment on the chat for the 12:45. Hopefully, we'll still come back if we are not done, because we're scheduled to run until 13:30. Thank you. You've got your decision. So we've come to the end of the open meeting. And firstly, again, just to apologize for starting late in terms of what was of the apologize to the public for starting late in terms of the time that was originally advertised. And we'd like to thank you all for joining in today. And hopefully you were able to follow us. I know that with all of the load shedding, sometimes it presents a lot of challenges. But we'd like to thank the public and